Hey, everybody. Welcome to MVP Gaming Podcast. This is our very first episode. My name is TJ or Grimsforge Gaming. You can find me on YouTube. We're here with the owner of MVP Gaming, Jason. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, TJ?
Good. So this is our very first episode right here. This is exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah. So tell us about MVP Gaming. What exactly is MVP Gaming?
Well, do you remember in the 90s bringing your PC over to your friend's house so you and your buddies could network and play like Diablo or Quake together?
Yeah. The LAN parties or whatever anybody wanted to call them. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. And for me, those all-night at-home LAN parties were like the mecca of gaming growing up. In fact, I remember my very first add-in video card, which was the Voodoo 2 by 3DFX, which I bought because it was a requirement to play Final Fantasy VII. Fantasy RPGs were and still are my favorite type of video game. Fast forward to today, and that same mecca of LAN gaming is what MVP Gaming Center is all about. We are a fantasy-themed esports center, built like a tavern you might find in Dungeons & Dragons, with a mix of medieval and modern, with like a fireplace, stone-like walls, wooden floors, and other fantasy memorabilia.
That sounds awesome. Where do I sign up for this?
Well, we're in a funding stage right now. We're not open yet. We're hoping to open spring, summer of 2023. And right now we're looking for investors and people to help make MVP possible.
That's awesome. Where would they contact you at?
They can visit us on our website at www.mvpgaming.center.
That's awesome. So tell us about MVP Gaming, the podcast. What are you hoping to do with the podcast, and what's your vision with this?
Our goal is to build and foster fellowship and friendship in the gaming community. Gaming is made up of hundreds of millions of unique individuals, meshed together with our shared passion, which provides countless opportunities to build, promote, and help one another. And it's those bonds, from reaching out to someone on Discord who is struggling with life, to collaborating in game to raise money to help a friend with a tragic loss, to just logging in and being greeted with a hello. Fellowship and friendship and belonging is what gaming is all about.
That's awesome. We are here today with our very first episode. We're meeting with a content creator, FragManSaul. FragManSaul, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me on your first podcast. It's great to be here, guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, dude, you were like one of the first people to come to mind. I love your content, and like whenever I see you streaming, I want to jump in and see how you're doing. You and I played ESO together, Elder Scrolls Online, and your evolution as a PvPer, I've been really impressed with. You and I were in a battleground together not too long ago, and you were giving me an absolute fit, and it was fun, playing with you. I was like, man, this guy's really, really tough with this very unique build. It's called a Bash build. And anyways, my hat goes off to you, like the evolution of PvP that you've gone through. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I do owe actually quite a bit of that to you, because I remember after you reached out and we had a conversation, you said to me that probably in the last podcast actually, that would I care to join you in a sort of tutorial on how to PvP a bit in ESO, and I took you up, and the things you taught me I have continued to use to this day in ESO, and that's made me the player that I am. Yeah, it's I definitely improved, and I am winning battlegrounds. Well, I say winning them, I'm getting the kills anyway. Whether I'm winning them because I'm playing objective is a different story, but I definitely have improved, so thank you to that.
Yeah, no problem, man. You're like out there carrying it too. I see you doing like 29 kills on some of them, like one death, and the one death is like when everyone realizes, dude, this guy's a problem. We got to get him out of here. So.
Yeah, I think 4v1 becomes a bit of an issue for me in battlegrounds. But if I'm 1v4, should I say, then I'm obviously doing something right. But I guess a bit of knowledge in the game as well does help. So yeah, it's an interesting game, definitely. But I do enjoy the battlegrounds PvP and carrying. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, like who inspired you content creator wise? Like, what was the thought process when you decided, you know what, I think I want to make content, to where am I going to make that content for, to what games am I going to make it? Like, give us the whole background here.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
interested.
Yeah, so content creation and me go back a very, very long way, but I never really decided to jump on YouTube until 2015. Prior to that, though, I was always interested in, recording my gameplay, not necessarily making like awesome clips and montages, but just to kind of back at the gameplay and see where I can improve and that sort of stuff. And this is when is it Bandicam Catcher, I think, was one of the apps, or one of those sorts of things where you could record your gameplay and have a look. And in fact, it was Guild Wars 2 was my first ever upload to YouTube in 2012, and that was on an Elementalist, which is actually going to be quite interesting because it does fast forward to today. But yeah, it's just uploading to YouTube. I always thought it would be a fun thing to do, but didn't realize just how, let's say, lucrative, but as a sort of form of sort of additional income it could be. Until my brother was working in the industry at Activision, and he said, "Oh, mate, I know you do videos, but you should definitely upload to YouTube." And at the time, I was always like, "Well, there's always copyright issues, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to publish the game on YouTube." And my brother said, "Look, don't worry about it. The companies actually will like you if you upload their game, so just crack on and do it." And from that point onwards, I became sort of it was almost like that freedom to go, oh, okay, I can actually upload to YouTube without getting penalized or breaching copyright law. And I did a bit of copyright in my real job and legal stuff in the building industry, and knew that, I didn't want anything to hit back on me, but having that sort of weight lifted from me allowed me to just start uploading. And I started uploading videos, and then very quickly discovered streaming. And this is all on YouTube. So this is 2015, 2016. And I bounced around between many games, from Minecraft to Grand Theft Auto, to a lot of the Call of Duties, bit of Battlefield, and then kind of slowly found myself into Overwatch until sort of like 2016, 2017. I can't remember when it came out. And then 2018, Twitch approached me and asked me if I wanted to be front page streamer for them in the UK for a bit. So I did that for a couple of years, and eventually I actually decided to, cancel that contract with them, but I wanted to pull back because I just kind of felt that Twitch as an individual platform wasn't enough to kind of sustain you. And so I went back to YouTube, and now I'm at a point where I'm just content creation or creating on all platforms. So I'm kind of doing multi-stream, but then I've kind of kept my main YouTube channel for just videos, MMO videos specifically. So I've had a very varied life in terms of games, but main two genres are FPS games and MMOs, and they're very, very different, and I tend to flip-flop between the two in long periods of time. So I may do MMOs for 3 or 4 years, and then I'll get fed up and decide that I want to do an FPS game for a bit, and then do comp FPS for a bit. But I'm at the point now where I'm actually doing both. I'm juggling both just till I get a best of both, really. I'm enjoying playing both. So I stream FPS and MMO, but I just do videos for MMOs, but apart from the shorts. But yeah, that's kind of it, content creation wise. But prior to that, in my upbringing, I'm 40 plus now, so I started gaming in the late 80s, sort of with Carful Wolfenstein, Commander Keen, Doom. Yeah, you probably recognize these games, Atari STE. And then just kind of obviously found my way into what gaming has become today, which is a very different place, but still very much enjoyable.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier. Your brother, who was at the time, I think you said he was working for Activision, and he said they actually like when you use their game or do stuff on their game, right? Like you're a content creator for their game. Side note, I really don't feel that way about ESO. Do you?
I guess it depends on what content you do. Obviously, everybody likes a fanboy or a cheerleader, which there are obviously fanboys and girls when it comes to Elder Scrolls Online. But on a competitive element, as a PvP player on Elder Scrolls Online, there's a massive ball dropping element towards what they've done with the game. And also there's the lack of fulfilling potential. That game has a lot of potential when it comes to PvP. The combat system is very good when it works. The build element is very good, and they could implement a rank system and they could improve on PvP. But the money, weirdly, the money isn't there for them in PvP, which is strange for me, because as a content creator, and especially watching streams on Twitch, I kind of feel that the competitive edge of a game is what creates compelling viewing. So if you have matches and leagues and tournaments and stuff, people want to tune in, watch the best players, and see who's winning. But Elder Scrolls Online doesn't have that environment, and it's just they're not supporting the PvP players, which is kind of the reason why, I guess, in my opinion, why on Twitch there's not a big viewer base, and the viewer base that is on there is enhanced by embedded views on other websites and such that kind of give it an increased viewer base than what actually is. And I kind of think that if they just decided to go towards more of a competitive element of PvP, and not for the whole game, but if they actually introduced ranked battlegrounds and supported their content creators in that sense, there would be a really nice synergy with PvP players and the studio. But ZeniMax want to just keep with the easy route, I suppose, in house building and crafting and just the easy, nice PvE content, and make it a very casual PvE MMO as opposed to like a competitive one, which is obviously their choice and it's their business model. But when us PvP players complain about the system and such, they tend to shut us out very, very quickly, and they don't like being spoken back to, I guess, and that proves on their streams and on their forums. If you mention even the word PvP in a live stream on Twitch, you'll get banned from their chat, which isn't a very good isn't very good PR and marketing for a company that claims to have that as part of their game.
Yeah, it's really sad to have one of the most intuitive combat systems out there, right? Like that's what we see a lot of people is talking about. That's what keeps them. So they have one of the best combat systems in all gaming, right? And minus balancing, but it's actually the mechanics of PvP. They have one of the best systems out there, unlike anything seen, right? And it's just like this potential unfulfilled, and it's so heartbreaking. But yeah, I've seen a lot of content creators, they're at a point right now, they had saddled up with ESO kind of as their single egg in their basket, right? This is the game that I do content on, and probably over the last 3 months they're just gravitating away from it, moving away from it, and time to make content on other things, and where we're not going to get banned for even talking about it. So it's so strange. The whole thing is super strange. So did you have a hard time? Like there was a point for you where you were like, ESO is my game. I want ESO to be my game, but what are they doing? And was there a moment where you had to like this?
Well, the epiphany moment that this isn't going to be carrying me. Yeah, yes and no. I kind of feel that with the Elder Scrolls Online, you do lose yourself in the game more than the content sometimes, because there is a vast variation in builds and content that you can create. And what I noticed that I was spending more time playing around with build ideas than actually putting the builds out, because I never found the builds that fit, that worked. And I was originally doing builds regularly, like weekly. I'll be doing a different vampire build or messing around with PvE builds or healing builds. But the more I got in the game and the more I understood it, the more I realized that, not say build diversity is difficult, but there's obviously the meta. I make off meta builds anyway, which are kind of the fun to play, but you end up realizing that the game is actually extremely easy, and that you don't really need to have a build per se to kind of do most of the content. You just need to make sure you got the right stats attributes, and then you can just go out and you can probably get through just heavy attacking now. You just press and hold the button and you could probably wipe. I mean, people have made misform builds and just basically go misform and just do damage and kill stuff, and you can walk away from your computer and kill world bosses. So I kind of feel that the when you get to that point in in the game where you realize the game isn't actually that challenging, then you start to drift away from it naturally. So recently, especially over the last month or so, and obviously I've got life stuff going on as well. We're moving house, and that's quite a big deal. So that's taking a lot of energy up in the evenings. But the drive to create builds is gone because they changed the game a lot. They flip-flop between how they want the system to work, how they want light attacks to work, how they want abilities to work, whether they're going hybrid or not. And you get to a point where you're like, I can't keep changing and doing build videos. I do a build video and it's obsolete within 2 weeks. It's like, well, why would I even bother spending? And, bear in mind, a build video takes the calculations to work out what sets you're using, what's going to work well together, and then you got to record it. Then we upload it to the website, and then we make a written guide on it. And by the time you spent a good day in production and getting it right and getting it good, let alone all the testing and all the battleground testing and all the videos and the recording, to have that get completely wiped after 2 weeks because they decided to change how the game works, it just well, why would I bother doing this? It's not long form content. You're better off just playing something else that will actually stick better and give you at least 6 months of content for your website. Because I still have people come to my vampire videos on my main website, not the Gorilla one, which is the community one, but my FragManSaul one, and they say, "Oh, is this still valid?" And I said, "No, the patch has changed. The vampires are dead. Effectively, you can't run this build anymore because they've destroyed everything about it." And that's quite sad in a way that they don't know what they're doing as a company. So it kind of, because of that, I say realization, I guess, over the last few months. Obviously, the patches are being bad recently. I've naturally find myself drifting to try and find a fix. It's not an addiction fix, but a kind of like, I want to spend my time in a game that's actually going to give back to me. So I've been playing a bit of New World. I've been playing Guild Wars Online. I've been going back to my first-person shooters, and it's just kind of nothing's really kind of grabbed me as like, this is the one game that I used to have out of ESO. ESO was my main game. I used to want to know everything about it, and I haven't got that anymore. But it was just fine. It's probably a good thing actually, because it kind of removes that addictive element behind it. But it's sad that, and like you say, it's got one of the most intuitive combat systems in any MMO that I played, and I love the way the gear sets work, and I love how almost starter friendly it is. You can jump in the game, and when you get to level 10, you can go into battlegrounds and fight against people that are all right, CP 160, but they may be lower level because they got a sub 50 level. But there's nothing stopping me from creating a new account, going straight to level 10, going to battlegrounds and equipping the right gear and dominating in that as a brand new person, if I just knew my stuff. And I like that. Where most games now, you got to get in the game, you got to grind to level 60, then you got to get your gear score up from like level 1 to level 700, and then you can go into then you can start going in and fighting competitively against people and not have that disadvantage of gear. Whereas Elder Scrolls Online doesn't do that. Everything is level scaled up, so you can go in, and I think that's a good way to bring in PvP. Guild Wars 2 have a similar thing. You can be level 1 and equip, I guess, end game gear and go into PvP on the sort of like battleground system. So you're evenly fighting. So it's only skill. It's your skills letting you down, as opposed to actually the fact that some guy's ground the game and got himself super level gear and he's going to beat you because he's got the gear. That's not skill. That's just him spending hours and hours on the game. So yeah, sorry, I've gone off on topic on there a little bit, but I kind of feel it's all part of that, having felt let down by the developers on ESO, that they just kind of drop the ball a little bit and don't really support the game enough for me to kind of keep my interest in it.
Did you bring that up to your brother, like kind of what's going on right now? I guess he would watch your content. Is he just kind of appalled, or what's his thoughts on that?
Well, interestingly, Henry started to develop his own video game. He's gone off to sort of the Web3 sort of games, and is doing a sort of more psychological turn-based strategy as opposed to these sort of FPS games. But his take on it is he wants to reduce the focus on money within games and make the games enjoyable again. I think he's same age as me, so he's realizing, and having worked in the industry, he realizes that money is a big kind of focus on how to develop games, and he wants to. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's in it to earn a living, but at the same time, he wants to make sure that the people are having a fun ride doing it and not just being milked via crown stores and cosmetics and pay to win or pay for convenient items. And I think we need more of those people in the industry. But I kind of feel once you get down that route, you get to a point where it's like, would you want to earn, have a turnover of 500 million a year, or do you want to earn 50 million a year? And the 500 million a year is the crown store option, and the 50 million a year is the actual, the gaming option. So hopefully you won't get tainted by the money, but I kind of feel that he's aware of the problem, I think, in the gaming industry for sure.
That's probably one of the biggest things that's changed about gaming, right? Is the amount of money. Obviously, technology has changed, but the amount of money that is in the gaming world is crazy right now. And Jason had some numbers, a couple things. Jason, I kind of filled him in on what was going on ESO, and he said, hey, that mass exodus, from ESO, like content creators leaving and stuff like that. WoW just recently went through something similar to that, right, Jason?
Yeah, with the sexual harassment cases that Blizzard was involved with earlier this year and last year with the state of California and with a lot of their employees, a lot of gamers nowadays, it's not enough just to play a game that, and have fun. It has to share your values. It has to share something that you agree with. And when the developers of that game skip foot and don't value individuals and they harass individuals based upon sexual identity or something else, then that's reason to leave the game. And so a lot of content creators and a lot of players just deleted their characters, deleted their accounts, and left the game.
Yeah, that's sad. That's a lot of when you're talking about community, which is one of our upcoming topics. But imagine, and you can speak on this too, Jason, but some of these communities are years in the making. And for things like that to happen, it literally is like you're losing a family member, when they leave. Those individuals you've played with, at least 3 nights out of the week or something like that. So
I can't speak on any. I don't know statistics off the top of my head of any individual that's famous or that streams or is a content creator that has left and their numbers. But personally, I've been playing World of Warcraft since November of 2004. A couple of days after it came out, I wasn't there launch day, but I went a couple of days after and bought the game and installed it on 4 CDs on my PC when I was on active duty in the Army. And, there are still some people that I communicate with, 3 people that I communicate with from my original guild back in 2004. And so when you have this 18-year span of community, like you're saying, people that you've raided with regularly throughout some of these guilds, I've been a part of guilds in my journey with World of Warcraft that are as old as the game itself. My current guild is 16 years old. And there are some people that have been gaming that long together, and they have a little bit of a clique, but necessarily so. They've been together through thick and thin. And then to have a reason or a necessity almost to leave the game, to abandon that community, to abandon those friends, and then you go they transition together, generally speaking. You transition together to another game. But that game is like your home because you, especially with an MMO, you spend so much time in there, 3-4 nights a week raiding or doing keys or whatever the situation might be. It's sad, but corporate greed, I think we talked about monetization. I think corporate greed is the root of why, like in Blizzard's case, some of those things were allowed to happen.
Yeah. I view community as the cornerstone or like the sticking point to, as far as MMOs go, it's super important. Like if you want to have a really healthy player base, right? Like you cultivate strong community, right? And I think that's why they add the guilds and they add guild traders or they add clans and they add auction houses and things like that, the more you can get the community working together, and that's where it's at. But it's really hard to keep a community together when you're exiling certain family members, and then those family members basically feel like they don't have a place to be, and I really like playing with all you guys, but I can't stand the developers, or I can't stand this game anymore. And then the communities, or the game is, just not treating what I value in this game. They're not treating it with proper care. And so that's really sad. I don't know, but the community, I guess, talking about community, you said that FragManSaul, you've got your own website, and then you've also got the GorillaHQ.com. And I was there when you started talking about Gorilla HQ. You had yet to make this, but could you tell everybody about Gorilla HQ and the inception of it and the premise of it, what you hope to achieve out of it? Could you fill us in on that?
Yeah, sure. So it was actually about a year ago we were just discussing this, and I think you were originally part of the conversation about putting together some content creators. You working together as a group of content creators, you're going to grow better, and you feed off each other's ideas, as opposed to winging it solo. And prior to Gorilla, I do have my own website where I used to put my own guides up on Elder Scrolls Online. But it got to a point where I needed to kind of let's say step back from full-time content creation. But I just thought I need to do less because I'm working full-time now. I got a job, and therefore ended up chatting to a few other like-minded guys and say, look, do you guys want to put together a website, do guides, and then we can share each other's content, but we can also talk about each other and have a community night on a Friday. And it was just a way of kind of growing together. And I said that was a year ago, and we started with myself and Sawman, Captain Crunch, and then we got JTK Gaming, who's predominantly a Twitch streamer, but he started off his YouTube channel. And then Nice Gaming's joined in as well. And we're all predominantly Elder Scrolls Online content creators. I have a creation in FPS and single player games. Sawman is starting to venture out into he does do a lot of other games on stream, but he's looking to kind of expand his YouTube into other things, as is Nice. And it's just kind of, we're still kind of focused around the MMO side of things, but we're just kind of supporting one another in our own directions, and we all come back together and play with each other once a week and just have a bit of fun. But it's taken. It's slow going. We do well as a site. We get maybe between 5,000 and 7,000 visits a month, which isn't too bad. And it depends. This is the problem with the content on Elder Scrolls Online. The website is Elder Scrolls Online heavy at the moment. A lot of the traffic is from that game, and when the game is a bit rubbishy, then the viewers tend to drop. So we're starting to look out on whether we're going to New World or Ashes of Creation, which isn't out yet, but will be out at some point in the future, and it's got a lot of interest recently. Elden Ring was a big game for Sawman and also for Nice, and we there's a little element of Skyrim and Morrowind on there as well. But again, the website is predominantly Elder Scrolls, which when something like what's going on at the moment, Elder Scrolls is pretty drastic. Content creation is drying up. I'm playing different games. Everybody else is playing different games. It's very difficult for me to say to the guys, look, we need more content on there. If we want to try and get sponsored and that stuff, we need to increase the content. But everyone's like, I don't want to play the game anymore. It's not dead to me, but it's just very, very dry at the moment. And we're looking at other things. So we're kind of having to step on in a new direction, which is absolutely fine. It's the way gaming goes. And like you discovered World of Warcraft, and I used to be heavily into World of Warcraft back on beta and on launch, and it wasn't until 2011 that I actually stopped playing for a bit, and I've kind of found myself back into MMOs, but just on Elder Scrolls. So I know in this community, or in the gaming community, games come and go, communities come and go. But what I found via YouTube and via Twitch is that the communities tend to stay. So yes, there are people that will watch me just for Elder Scrolls Online, but some people may come over and watch me for, well, Call of Duty, believe it or not, for a little bit, or Overwatch or whatever. But predominantly they are MMO based gamers, but essentially we are gamers. And what I like about content creation, streaming, and YouTube, and I think you nailed this one, Grim. You said it's the cornerstone, and I think these communities are based on cornerstones and like sticking together. And the Elder Scrolls Online community, albeit is being decimated by the actual developers, is still very strong. I think, especially the PvP community, a lot of the guys in the PvP community are very much together because we are in this very difficult time together through the game, that it's frustrating and we're a bit cheesed off by it, and that we're moving to different things, but we are moving as a group. So we're playing Guild Wars together, we're playing New World together. And it's not the same as Elder Scrolls. We haven't got one game that is our game together, but we're all kind of doing it together, and it's kind of like that almost is unity in the sense that we're getting shafted and we're kind of trying to find our way through the or navigate through this mess. And hopefully we'll come out the other end and we're back on Elder Scrolls Online when they fixed it. But there's only so much we can take as a community before we get to the point where it's like, well, I've already started playing another game and I'm already invested in that, so do I want to start back again on Elder Scrolls or not? It's difficult to say, obviously, if they do kind of fix it. But the point being, though, is the community is it's sticking together, albeit the game isn't stuck us together. It's the community that we found in ESO. So it's nice to have that community. And I think Guerrilla HQ has been, and especially our Discord and the Friday nights that we put on. I mean, this Friday we did Chivalry 2. And we were going to jump on Mortal Online, but we're having such a fun time on Chivalry 2, we just stayed on it. But it's just, it's great to be able to hold those events, sort of PvP events or PvE events, and have a bit of fun together. And Guerrilla HQ has been kind of part of that. I mean, it's not as big as the Elder Scrolls stream we did as Guerrilla were great. We had, I must have had about 20, 25 of us all in one group going around Cyrodiil together, just like in stupid meme builds, doing silly things, as opposed to being full sweat bull groups. We're just kind of like the complete opposite, and just having fun, just going around mass teabagging people and avoid banning, that sort of stuff. So you got to have a bit of fun when you play the game, right? Especially when it's not performing. Got to make your own fun.
One of the funnest days, I think you were in the group, maybe not, but it was with Sawman UK. We went to Cyrodiil, which is a PvP zone, by the way, and there's these. It's a huge map, huge area, okay? But there's these 3 small towns located within this monstrous map that are quest hubs. And so basically it's ZeniMax Online Studios' way to entice the PvEers to come to a PvP zone, right? So there you can already tell there's disaster, right? And so Sawman got a group of us. I think there was maybe 6 of us. And we go to this small town, this hub, and he says, okay, let's unequip our weapons. So we have no weapons, which if you're not equipping a weapon, you can just punch people, right? Jab, cross, that's it. And the damage is like nil. It's next to none, right? There's no like monk in the game yet. There's no monk like, oh, well, I'm just going to use monk abilities. No, you can just press light and heavy attack and you're just punching somebody and it's doing minimal damage. And so Sawman said, okay, we're all going to go in this building, this house, and because there's a quest giver in the house. And when a PvEer comes in to the quest, we're going to punch him to death. And so we go in and we're all inside this building, and it's basically like Fight Club. Someone comes in and he's like, get him. And we just punch him to death, and then we'll get a message like, LOL, what was that? Because nobody's running around without weapons equipped in the game, killing people, right? That's just not viable play style or whatever. And then Saw Man said, oh, it would be really funny. And so he puts down a siege weapon inside the building. He puts down an oil pot, right? And he said, so as soon as they walk in, they're going to interact with the oil pot and like start to burn it. And when they do that, they're stuck in the animation of like burning the oil pot, and then we'll punch them to death. So they can't even fight back. And I was like, okay, so we did that for a little bit. Well, then they started calling in reinforcements. And next thing you know, like 10 people, it was like 3 people showed up. Then it was 6 people showed up. Then it was 10 people showed up. And then it was 20 people showed up. And we're without our weapons, because once you're in combat, you can't just equip your weapons, right? Like now we're in, there's a bunch of people here, so we better equip our weapons. You can't do that. So we're stuck in combat against crazy numbers with no weapons. And we're trying to punch everyone to death, and it was pretty darn funny. But were you there for that, or I don't remember?
I wasn't there for that particular occasion, but we have done that prior to that, or after that, and it's just making fun of the game, and I think it's almost the ultimate troll as well as players to have that fun. But generally, people are quite good when they've been in the receiving end of that, but you do get a few people that get a little bit obsessed about it. But it's I think that's the thing about MMO though, isn't it? You play it to death to the point that you end up thinking, well, what can I do for a bit of fun tonight? And when you get a game like ESO, when you have that flexibility, and this, we'll get frustrated and sad that ESO is going the direction it is, because there are these fun moments that could be almost encouraged by the developers if they said, you go to ESO, you go to Cyrodiil, and if you kill 10 people without any weapons equipped, we'll give you an achievement, or give you a mount or something. If they did something like that and embraced it, which they won't, because we know that developers don't want to go down that route. Or I love them to give them the teabag achievement. If you teabag enough players, we'll give you an achievement. I mean, how amazing would that be? Just to kind of like embrace the sort of the fun trolly aspect of the game, as opposed to kind of like, oh, we're going to ban you if you teabag, which is the thing. If you teabag in the game, you will get, you get reported, you will get likely put on a suspension and eventually banned. Which, it's part of growing up culture, isn't it? I mean, you getting bested by someone, you get teabagged, and then you get better, and then you get good, and then you end up teabagging them back, and that's just part of your sort of acknowledgement that you've improved on and not. And I kind of feel that the game doesn't allow for any fun in that sense. You can get banned for the most ridiculous things in that game now.
Yeah, that was something I noticed about you guys, is like you take the game, you don't, like, you're a bunch of high skill set PvPers, but you're trying not to take the game too serious or too sweaty. Like, let's make it fun. And I think there was a scenario where you or Captain Crunch got killed, right? And it's you, Sawman, Captain Crunch, JTK, Nice Gaming, like it's the whole crew, right? A bunch of elite level PvPers, and one of the guys in the group gets killed, and Sawman's the first guy to go over and teabag his own teammate. Ha ha, you got killed,
Oh yeah. We love teabagging each other. It sounds a bit weird there, but we do enjoy, mocking one another when we do go down, especially when it's in like a PvE environment as well, when you're not supposed to die. And we're basically showing our lack of skill, and we just mock each other all the time. There is, and it's so funny when I joined the guys before we set up Gorilla. I started playing with Sawman. He used to bully me because I just started over onto NA, and I had the very low CP, which is the kind of like the post late game ranking system, and the more champion points you have, the stronger you become, to a point where it evens itself out. It's like this slow progression at the very end of the game, but it does make a difference if you are CP 200 versus a CP 1,500 player. It's a massive difference in terms of extra abilities and skill slots you have. And he always used to beat me a lot, and then eventually when I started to kind of get my build, get my loadout, get my CP up a little bit, the tables flipped very quickly, and we don't fight that often anymore because my teabagging is a lot more than his, can I say. But it's just fun to have that rivalry between friends, I think, and it just just absolutely take light of the game. It is a video game. I mean, it's kind of is what it is at the end of it. If there was money on the line and if it was a tournament, then I'd understand, the respect that you have with players. But there's nothing like that in Elder Scrolls. It's not that sort of game. It's because they haven't built it into the game. It's just a fun open world, easy sandbox, I suppose, based in a universe that everyone really, really enjoys, which is obviously the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. It's so interesting. A buddy of mine, Irish Ned, he's in our Grimsforge gaming Discord, and I was playing in offline mode, recording I was doing build testing for a particular build. It was one of my sorcerer builds. And all I'll do is solo queue for Battlegrounds, right? And get clips, and I'm testing the build, making sure it's viable, right? Like the sustain, the durability, the ability to fight back, fight outnumbered and survive on it. Like, is this a viable build, or is this just a meme build, And anyways, during the course of doing those Battlegrounds in offline mode, Ned messages me in Discord, and he says, "Dude, I was just on Sawman's stream, and you were in a battleground with him, destroying everybody, and Sawman was chasing you around the whole BG, trying to kill you solely." And I didn't even know. I didn't even know he was in there. But so funny, because for me, if I see you or see Sawman in a battleground, I'm not coming after you guys. I'm thinking, oh, they're probably trying to get clips, or they're streaming or something like that, so I'm going to avoid them and let them do their thing. And it's just funny. Sawman's like, there's Grim. Get him.
Complete opposite. Yeah, just go for it. It's funny, actually. When we've been in a couple of games, I because of the way I have my HUD set up, even though I can see your health, I don't actually see your player name, and because it's very small. And after a bit, I'm like, God, this guy's a real pain in the, I can't kill this guy. What's going on? He's zipping around the map. He's a sorcerer. He's streaking everywhere. Every time I get him down a bit, he's off again, and I can't keep up with him. And then at the very end of the game, a couple of times I'm like, oh, it's Grim. The penny drops. He's actually a good player, and he's, that's the reason why I'm struggling. It's like, oh, okay, fine. If it's Grim, I haven't got a problem with the fact that, I'm not being able to kill this guy. Because normally I'm like, right, who's next? And I'm just running after people. You're dead. Who's next? You're dead. All right, there's 4 of you guys. I'm going to go in there and see what happens. It's because I'm not because I can't identify people via name very easily. I normally look at their outfit or what class they are. So as soon as I see that this guy's streaking around the place, I'm like, oh, let me just check. Who is it? Is that Grim? Because then I know the play style. You got your archer, sorcerer on, and then you're going to be pulling out a sort of like the barrage or whatever it is that you've got, the ulti, and if I can deflect it. And sometimes if I do clock on early what play style people are playing, I will counter it and change my skills mid game. So I'll put on a deflect or a defensive stance just to if people are playing range quite a lot, or I'll go for more of an engage and a stun. Just kind of adjust it on the fly to make the game a bit easier. But
that's a testament to your evolution as a PvPer, your ability to do that, right? Like when people first start out PvPing, they don't think of those adjustments on the fly. Like, how do I counter what this guy's doing? And so that's definitely a testament to your evolution.
Well, you have to. I think the game, especially, you can't go in thinking that one build's going to do all. Oh, well, I suppose you're doing a Templar and you jab, but that's been nerfed recently. But you have, you got to count, especially when someone is built so heavily into one particular ability, which is, if you're using an archer and you've got that range ultimate, it can be devastating. So you've got to kind of counter it somehow. So thank you. Yeah, and that's come from hours of practice and having the Grimsforge training camp, boot camp, way back when.
Something else I noticed too, because there were 2 times where we got off away from the rest of the group and we were having a nice little duel, we were going at each other and it was a lot of fun. And as soon as someone else jumped in, you would go find someone else. You wouldn't like 2v1 me. You would go find someone else, and I would kill them, and you'd go kill the other person, and then we would gravitate back to going after each other. And that kind of like honor amongst thieves type of scenario, I noticed that's something kind of a sign of a really skilled PvPer too. It's somebody that looks for that 1v1, that challenge, that fight, and then when someone else jumps in and kind of ruins that scenario, then they back off. And like, you could be in Imperial City and Kirchhoff will be, 1vxing out there, and if you jump on him, you don't realize it's him, you're trying to kill him, and then, you would realize it was him and back off or whatever. He would message you and be like, that was cool, bro,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There is an element of that with us, because we all know each other as well. But it's so funny you mentioned that in the background, because that happened a couple of times when people jumped in on the fight. And either I'd hold back or I'd just go, right, just let me just kill this other guy first, and then we can just get back to our, dueling. And we're in the middle of a battleground. We're not even playing objective, or it could be a death match, and we're not actually getting any extra kills because we could literally, we know we could go off and just kill everybody else. But it's a rare opportunity. You get to fight each other in a battleground, so there's a bit of a tense environment going on. And it makes it more of it's a bit more fun, but also you're right. It's that honor amongst good PvP players. You kind of like you do your duel together, and then you get back into it. And when you do lose, you're like, oh yeah, little DM saying, oh, that was a great fight. I really enjoyed it. I often get the teabag against other people when they do beat me. They're like, oh yeah, teabagged you. I've got you. And it's like, well, yeah, you played well.
Yeah. Oh, what would you like? So you've got Elder Scrolls Online, the PvP there. You've got the PvP with Guild Wars 2. What's another one that has PvP right now? Is it just those two? Like if you were competing PvP versus PvP, those two are going head to head, or is there a third title that you would throw in there?
Yeah, so what I've done is I've started to jump on different MMOs to find out what is going to have a similar sort of buzz to me that ESO did. I mean, ESO PvP is, I really enjoy Battlegrounds still at the moment. Obviously, when you're winning, you enjoy them. Obviously, when you're not winning, you don't so much. Elder Scrolls Open World, I find, can be a bit of a Zerg fest. You get hit by ball groups, or you get outnumbered very quickly, or you can have that 1v1 situation, but then you don't get the honor amongst certain thieves, and they just come along and just steamroll you. But since the frustration with the game, I've been having a look at other MMOs, and I'm on my desktop at the moment having a look. I've got Guild Wars 2, obviously I mentioned. I've just jumped back into that. I'm not very good. I'm not looking at, I'm only, I think, one stream in, maybe two. I'm still trying to get my head around it. I did play 10 years ago, and I was quite competitive then, but things have changed since. And I say things have changed. Things haven't changed that much. Actually, looking at my Elementalist, there's a few extra sort of extra trees, progressive trees that you can increase your character with, but generally the classes and the ability feels very similar to what it did back 10 years ago, which is a testament to Guild Wars 2. They stuck to their competitive edge, they've stuck to the way they build the game. And if I was to say the same about ESO, you wouldn't think I'd be playing the same game, because the classes changed so drastically. The other one I've been playing a lot of was New World. And New World for me, and I know we did this at the beta and we played a little bit at launch, the idea of an open world MMO with open world PvP really, really sort of took my fancy. But because it's a game based on your level and obviously progression through gear, as opposed to actually as you level up, you'll be the same. We're gonna adjust your level so that you fight competitive other players. A level 60 character on a New World will completely smash a level 1. Whereas, if a level 1's geared correctly in ESO, it won't necessarily be the same fight, even though it will be a slight advantage. It's not that massive advantage. So I thought, I'll get to level 60 in New World. We'll see if I can then jump into the Outpost Rush and see if I can do much good in there. And then I discovered that there's another leveling system from, gear score 500 to 625. So I was like, okay, I've got another load of leveling to do. Let's see how this goes. And they actually did make an adjustment recently where the gear score on New World if your sub gear score 600, your gear score will be automatically boosted and adjusted to gear score 600. So there's still a difference between gear score 600 and 65. So if you're max leveled and you're max sorted out, you're still going to have that little bit of advantage, but it's the leveling the playing field a bit. But one thing I did kind of like work out is that obviously as you're leveling your gear, you don't buy sort of gear, you don't fine tune your loadout when you're leveling, because you know you're replacing gear as you go until you get to that top level where you're like, this is the armor set I want to go for, that's the weapon, that's the chest piece. As you're getting to the like gear score 65, you're like finding pieces and you're just slotting them in. Right, I've got a new piece, I'll put that one instead, because you want to try and increase your level all the time as it's gear related. So I got to the point with New World that I just couldn't. I got frustrated with that and I gave up. You know, I got to level 60, I got gear score 540 and a gear score 65, and I wasn't enjoying leveling via PvP. And a lot of people say, oh no, what you need to do New World is play PvE, level with PvE to get to max level, and then you PvP. I'm like, well, I don't want to play New World and do PvE. That's not what I bought the game for. I bought the game to do PvP. And a game that doesn't embrace that, which initially they did. Initially they were like, oh yeah, we're open world PvP, it's going to be great. And then they decided to turn that switch on where you could opt in or opt out. And I kind of just, I don't know, MMOs are a big investment in time, huge investment in time. And I just kind of thought, do I really want to spend another, 6 months getting myself up, or 2 months, whatever it is, to get to that end game level? I mean, ESO's been a massive investment in time. I've enjoyed it. I wish it was still there to what it was, but it's not for me now. So I'm kind of been looking for that next thing. So Guild Wars 2's been one, New World's been the other, and then obviously there's this sort of MMO on the horizon, Ashes of Creation, which has that open world MMO. It's got its open world. I know it's not even out yet, so there's lots to discuss about it and whether it's going to be this next game that we all want to play, but it's definitely got my attention. It's like a combination of games that I do like, and we'll just have to see how that goes. So, but I'm at the time of my life though where we're about to move house, we've got 2 young kids, I can't invest the full time that I used to be able to into gaming, and I don't know if I've got the time in me to invest it full time into an MMO. So I think at the moment I'm just enjoying, believe it or not, jumping into first-person shooters like Call of Duty or Battlefield, where you pick your loadout, which is pretty much what everybody else has got. Bear in mind you can get some different weapons and attachments, but you can do a similar amount of damage, and your ability is based on your skill element, not actually the fact that you've got a full kitted loadout and that you'll just one-shot people. And having that sort of competitive edge, knowing that I'm not being carried by my gear, or the people aren't being carried by my gear, just makes it a bit more engaging for me.
Yeah. Another game I think you might want to put on your radar, and it's hard to find anything on it, but Riot Gaming is developing an MMO as well based off of the League of Legends mythos, I guess.
I've heard about that, this new Riot MMO. All I've heard, though, is there's a new MMO by Riot, and that's it. I've not really looked into it. I've not really seen any sort of skill trees or any sort of like sort of in-depth content about it. But if knowing Riot and the games that they produce, it'll be a highly competitive PvP MMO. I'd like to think it would be anyway. I mean, they obviously got Valorant, which is very competitive, and obviously their League games very, very strong as well. And they've got a very good understanding of how balance in these small battleground games works, and skirmishes and arenas work. So I'd like to think that could be a good thing. And if they pick up on stuff like, the good things of all these games, like Guild Wars 2, if they can pick up on when you go into an arena or a battleground, that your gear is going to be balanced out properly. Everyone's got the same kit to choose from. And it's a fair fight. And I guess it's. Did you ever play the League of Legends games? I know we're MMO based.
I just started playing League of Legends. So, have you played League of Legends, Jason?
Yeah, I picked up a couple matches.
Yeah,
but you know how the progression works in those games. Then, like everyone starts off on a level playing field. Everyone's got the same amount of base skill. and then you improve based on how much performance you do during the game. So everyone starts from the same place, and that's what I like about those games, is that you start the game on an even playing field. So if you are doing badly, it's actually down to your skill during the match, not that you've grinded the game prior and you got yourself into superhero level before everybody else. And I think that's important for competitive. And I got a feeling Riot will do that with their MMA. But I say I've not really seen much about it, so I'm kind of interested for that one. I think it'll be a good one for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it looks like. So Valorant is first-person shooter. League of Legends is a top-down or from an angle. They do both of those really well. Do you think we're going to see, I haven't seen screenshots, are we going to see the first-person shooter MMO?
Oh, I don't know if we'll see that. I mean, you could argue that New World did the Archer class it's not first person, it's like third person, I suppose. Actually, no, a New World is first person, isn't it? When you do the bow. You zoom in. Yeah. So
it zooms in like real close, right over your shoulder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's first-person shooters and MMOs are quite difficult because obviously you got that skill gap, especially if people playing controllers and you're putting them in the same world as people playing on keyboard and mouse. And you have to kind of bring in aim assist or not aim assist, and there's a whole element towards hacking and basically putting aim assists and aim bots on your computer to kind of make you better. I would love there to be that MMO stroke FPS that would work, but I always feel that blending those two genres is always quite tricky. How do you make a sniper improve in its damage when a sniper should one shot anyway with a headshot? And you're blending the two together. And I know I don't know if you ever played Borderlands, which is obviously an RPG. It's a co-op based RPG. There isn't much PvP in that. But it's almost like having a FPS looter shooter but then throw it into an MMO world. But then you got to throw in that competitive element as well. And I can't see how that would work. I bet maybe it would be more similar to something like Overwatch. But then literally you've got yourself a Valorant type clone. So I think it would probably be more of a blend between the two, very similar like to any MMO, but maybe with that a little bit of skill element that you get in New World. Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I'm really interested to see what it'd be like though, because if they can pull it out of the bag, I mean, I think Riot like to pick on a genre and go, right, this is the genre that we're going to master now, and they just learn it inside out, and they're going to make that game around that genre. They don't go groundbreaking. They don't try and recreate the wheel. They just go, this is the genre, we're going to nail it and we're going to balance it and we're going to make it solid. And they did that with Valorant. They obviously did that with League, so this is the next thing for them, no doubt.
You said balance. I think balance is super important, and probably the only reason that I would be a little worried, like if ESO made a Hail Mary to salvage their PvP community, like you just listed 5 content creators, and I know many, many more, but 5 content creators that don't feel the need to do Elder Scrolls Online content right now because of where the game's at. That has to hurt them, but I wouldn't want to see them do a Hail Mary like, okay, let's introduce ranked PvP, ranked arenas like 2v2 or 3v3. I think it would be great. But I was talking to Dots Gaming and we were doing a podcast for the Three Skeevers podcast. And Dots brought this up, and he said, I would never want to see that in Elder Scrolls Online until they got the game balanced. Because there's so many, we're talking about ranked, now it all matters. It all matters. The progression boards, the leaderboards, everything matters. And you can't have that when the DK take flight ability ultimate isn't working, or block mitigation isn't working, or dodge roll isn't working, or or 4 out of the 6 classes have a burst heal capability. They have an ability within their class that gives them access to a burst heal, and 2 don't. Or, Night Blades and all the problems that they bring, being able to dictate the fight, where and when, and stack into damage, and they don't need mitigations. And, he's like, you got to balance this stuff before you do that. Have you thought about that, or you kind of agree with that, or you're like, no, just it's never going to be perfect, just get it going? What's your take on that?
I think Elder Scrolls Online has decided to go down a casual format, and they allow any class to be, first of all, any type of class. So you don't get raw classes in Elder Scrolls. You don't get a DPS character. You don't get a healer character. You don't get a tank character outside of PvE. In PvP, you are all three. You are self-healer, you are damage, and you are tank. I know I do bash builds. There's a reason why I feel bash builds is actually a meta build in some respects, is that you have a huge amount of damage. You have a maximum amount of health. I'm running around 45k health builds. I do a massive amount of bash damage, and I have a heal that scales off my maximum health. If that is not broken in a game, like if you have all three, then I don't know what is. That is just ridiculous. And I think if they're going to balance PvP ranked, they need to bring in a sort of a class. They need to specify more of the class system, so you can't have maximum heals. So if you're going to do an arena, you need to have a dedicated healer. And Jason, you might correct me on this, but as I understand it, I don't know if World of Warcraft, the rank system for arenas is what it used to be back in 2010. But you generally have 2 DPS and a healer in a group, or you could actually have a tank and a healer and a DPS. But you wouldn't go in as 3 tanks because you'd never get the damage down. You wouldn't go in as 3 healers because you'd never do any damage. And likewise, you may go in as 3 DPS to try and burst the people down, but as soon as you lost one player, that was it. You kind of toast. And I kind of feel having a role specific class-based system would make arenas and battlegrounds better, but Elder Scrolls Online is never going to be that, because they would have to restructure their entire foundation when it turns to builds. And this kind of where we've got with Elder Scrolls Online, especially with the hybridization of the game as well. They're making everything crossover. You can do weapon damage, which is the same as doing spell damage. You can have these max health builds. You can have low. Obviously, you can go lower health if you want to, but there's no such thing as a glass cannon, really. You touched on Nightblades being the glass cannon, which is the rogue element or the rogue class. But my bash Nightblade is again stealthing. He's got 40k health, and he just comes out of stealth, critical damage and critical hits, and he still does a lot of damage. And you can build on that if you want to. So that there is no benefit on going full glass cannon, in my eyes, especially if you do a ranked, because all you do is get caught out once, and then you're dead because you literally get one hit. And I think the game is definitely being built and allow people to kind of be one of everything, so they can go off and just explore the world and do a bit of PvE and not have to worry about being outnumbered or zerged or zerged. Not that you get zerged in PvE, but you can take a world boss on without feeling that you need to have your teammates with you. And even the one area that is supposed to be a group based PvE experience, which is Craglorn, you can solo that now. You can heal yourself, you can damage, and you can tank in one hit. And I think as a ranked PvP system goes, if they want to split the classes up to make them more, tank, DPS, and healer, that would be one way. And then you touched very much so on the fact they haven't balanced the classes as well. So you have Wardens and Dragon Knights at the moment that are very, very strong. The breaking of abilities is another story. That's just the fact the game is broken. They can't, you can't balance the class that when the abilities don't work, they need to fix the abilities. But generally, they tend to flip flop between, right, Templars haven't got a good limelight at the moment. We'll just give them a bit of a boost, and then we'll make Nightblades a bit weaker. And I feel it's them shifting the meta around on purpose to recreate and regurgitate content. So people goes, oh, my Templar who I've been playing for ages now is is a bit rubbish, but I've heard DK is really good, so I'll level a DK now, and I'll just grind the DK instead. And you do that 6 times, you've got all your classes, and all of a sudden you've got 6 classes that you just rotate between. So I guess there's 2 things really. There's the class element, the tank, DPS, and healer roles, and then there's the role element, and then there's the class element not being balanced. But I think at this stage, I just chuck ranked on and just see what happens. They've got ranked card games. They can make a league or a table based on ranked card games. Chuck it in for Battlegrounds. What's the worst that could happen? You got a new meta to play with. You got a new ladder to play with, and you'll get the top players fighting against each other, which I think will be a good thing. At least they can get some data off it to do it, and people can feel that they're progressing towards something.
Yeah, WoW does this, and WoW does it really well, because I played WoW for 8 years or something like that, and I did arenas and stuff, but WoW implemented pet battles. And I actually really like that aspect of it. You go around the world and you collect these pets, and the pets have 3 basic abilities, and you can put them in whatever group composition you want and fight other pet owners or other whatever. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time with that. Along those lines, I brought this up to Icy Fire Gaming, who's part of the Three Skeevers podcast, and I was like, ESO needs to implement it with your companions. You can equip different gear, different abilities on your companions, and then you can actually put them in an arena and wager on them, right? Your different companions. Would you do that? Would you gear up a companion for arenas, and then you're just basically the bookie that books them for fights?
I don't know if it would be my sort of play style, but I can definitely see it would be better than playing card game. I mean, you could just auto fight, and it would just add a bit of a fun element. In fact, you could do pets as well, actually, if they decided to make pets worthwhile than just a cosmetic. That would be a really good way to just kind of like implement. I mean, it's like, we know there's so much they could do with this game, but they're not going to. I mean, the pet fighting, companion pit fighting, I think that would be a great element to the game.
Yeah. So I have to ask, why not WoW as one of your top games then? Because WoW's doing those things, and Jason's like currently in WoW, so Jason's probably like, hey, what about WoW?
Hey, what about WoW?
Exactly.
Yeah, why don't I play World of Warcraft? Because my wife, back in 2011, which wasn't my wife then, was very much against World of Warcraft, because it was that game that was between us as a relationship. So if she found out that I was playing World of Warcraft, she probably, not that she would now, probably care about it, but I kind of feel there's that element of contention that I do not want to reignite between the two of us. So I've stepped away from it. In fact, I did play it in 2018. They had a new expansion came out. I jumped on for a bit. But I just kind of felt with World of Warcraft, the leveling system, and the fact that when they bring out a new patch, not a new patch, sorry, a new DLC or whatever they call it, Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King, all your gear is just wiped. And essentially that it goes back to, well, it's just crap. All that stuff that you have fought for, done all the dungeons, done all the raids, it's gear score 100, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hi guys, we're going to implement a new gear score cap of 125. All that gear stuff that you had at 100 is complete rubbish, and you've got to redo it all over again. And again, another perfect thing about Elder Scrolls Online is that the gear, even though it is not meta anymore, you can still use that gear that you picked up 5 years ago, because it's the same gear score 160 as the new gear that you're getting, which is gear score 160, and it is comparative. It's not, you're not having to refarm a load of gear up, and you can keep sets that you quite like, or you can find a playstyle that you like. So there's a couple of things. I think I say the thing it might be the contention that it might bring with me and my wife is one, which is fair enough, and that's just me being a good husband. But also that sort of level progression being reset every few years when they decide to bring an expansion out. It's and also the combat. I found the combat is quite old school now when it comes to MMOs. I found Elder Scrolls Online a much more compelling combat system to play. your light attack weaving. You've got all these different mechanics. You're dodging, you're blocking. You can counter abilities. I just found it a lot more. And World of Warcraft could have developed since I last played it, but I definitely found ESO a better combat system to work. And weirdly, going to Guild Wars 2 now, I feel like I've gone back a couple of steps in terms of combat after playing Elder Scrolls. But Elder Scrolls just doesn't quite, it doesn't quite cut it for me at the moment. But if Elder Scrolls sorted themselves out, I'd go back in a heartbeat. I love that game. I think it's great. But yeah, I think there's only what I'm realizing though. There's only time for one MMO in your life at one particular time. If you juggle two MMOs, literally your time is just MMOs. There's nothing else. And when you got 2 children, a full-time job, a wife, trying to squeeze yet another MMO in is just a nightmare.
Yeah. What's your pull to WoW, Jason? What keeps you there?
Community, obviously. I have friends that I've been playing with for years now, and there's a collective group of us. People weave in and out, but we always end up coming back. I've weaved in and out a number of times, but it's community. It's just these people that I've known for years that I continue to play this game with.
Yeah. Yeah, the Grimsforge Gaming Discord, I really like a lot of the people that are in there. There'll be certain nights I'll just stop in and there'll be 10, 20 people in the Discord playing. There's nights where there's nobody, but the nights where there's, 10 people in there and I just stop in, and it's a lot like Cheers, when they're like Norm, everyone's like Grim, and, touching base and how is everybody? How are you guys doing? And if anybody's got any questions or needs some training or whatever, the community is definitely a huge sticking point. So, hey, you brought it up about the gear score for ESO, and only Elder Scrolls players will understand this, but that gear score rating of 160 being the highest gear score in the game. If you got a gear score of 160 on a particular item, there's nothing bigger than that. I feel like the devs are so out of touch with the needs of its players right now in that game. I could totally 100% seeing them think that this would save their game. New exciting times are ahead for ESO players as we raise the gear score cap to 200.
I'll destroy the game.
It would destroy the game. It would destroy the game. And I could totally see them thinking that it would save the game, right?
How to regurgitate more content in a game. Let's just increase the level cap, so you got to regrind everything all over again. I think it would be a horrible thing. But the thing is, the level cap is based on your champion point level. So our champion point levels go up to 3,600. I mean, that would be the thing for it, unless they separated the champion point from it. But you don't... no, they don't need to do that. Don't jinx it. For goodness sake, I still want to play the game.
Yeah. I totally picture that happening. That's my hot take. That's my hot take. So, what hot takes or predictions do you have for any of the games that you're currently playing or upcoming games? Like, do you think that, some people are like Ashes of Creation's going to be the WoW killer, and it's like the only thing that I think is going to be the WoW killer is going to be WoW, right? Like.
Well, it'll kill itself, or Riot Games, their League of Legends MMO would, maybe.
Right. So that's your hot take, Jason, is that WoW kills WoW, not anything else. Maybe Riot. That's your hot take.
Well, I think from the past we can take that as an example. Like during Legion, there were 20 or plus million people playing World of Warcraft, and then the next expansion wasn't as good, and so everyone left the game. It wasn't as fun. They weren't enjoying it. They came back for Shadowlands, and then it wasn't as fun, so they left again. So WoW's biggest enemy is WoW.
Yeah. What about you, Saul? What's your hot take, or what's your predictions for
I don't think
game.
Ashes. I don't think Ashes of Creation will be a killer. I think it will be a migrator of a type of player, mainly the PvP player. I think PvE players will go and find it very quickly not for them, based on the fact that the system is PvX, or it's a very PvP orientated game, PvX, situations. And also, I think it's a bit more hardcore in terms of content. We as a PvP and competitive community, and talk about us, I guess, directly in this podcast and the ones that we have as our community. We're very focused on, I'd say, sweaty PvP, but we do focus on PvP as opposed to the fun aspects of playing Elder Scrolls Online, which is just going around exploring the world, getting cosmetics and making our homes our virtual home, which I don't do. I'm not into cosmetics. I'm not into house building. I just want a battleground to jump on, and I want to better people. And I want to better myself as a player. So I kind of feel that Ashes of Creation will be a very a niche product. I think there's a lot of players out there that will be willing to play it. But I also feel that people will go to it and find it's not for them. I think that the problem with MMOs is very much what Jason says, is that WoW is its own killer, in the sense that people, when they invest so much time into a game and they have so much memories and nostalgia in that game, they'll always go back to that game wanting to get that feeling, that recreation of what it was when it was great. But nothing will ever beat that as well, because as you grow up, your perception of gaming changes as well. Unless something is going to better that game, then it will never overtake it. And I don't think, as an adult, that we can go back 15, 20 years to that time when we played World of Warcraft for the first time, going into an open world MMO and thinking, oh my God, this is online and there's everyone playing. I mean, before World of Warcraft, I used to play Diablo, and that was 4 players max going around, dungeon crawling and getting gear. And then all of a sudden World of Warcraft came out, and it was the same skill tree based system, but you're an open world with a load of other people playing, which MMOs weren't. It wasn't the first MMO by any means, but it was the first one that implemented the skill tree based system and made it into sort of like a really, I don't know, AAA game. I know we had EverQuest before that, I suppose, and Ultima Online was my go-to in the 90s. But I don't know, I think World of Warcraft was that breach of, we're going to create a really great MMO and have a massive community behind it, and it just kind of blew up. And I think now we are so spoilt for choice in terms of video games, that to have a game come out and kill it, it's got to really pip your best possible time that you had in an MMO and keep you engaged in that for at least 2 or 3 months before you can go, oh, I'm going to leave World of Warcraft now, or I'm leaving ESO. This is so much better. But you also got to have the community there as well. And the foundation of World of Warcraft is the community, and all these games base themselves on the community. Elder Scrolls Online, as like you said, it has a good community, albeit that there's a few of us, and let's say there's a few of us, but there's a lot of people play the game. There's less so that watch it, but that's just down to the content not being very viewable, as we spoke about, as a competitive element. But you'll find that a lot of these guys just want to chill out and play in the game and hang out in the game with their friends, as opposed to watch people on Twitch or watch YouTube videos. They just want to explore it and do their own thing. So I think almost MMOs are, I don't say behind. The old ones are behind, but they're almost ahead, because they don't rely on the social media, the marketing to kind of keep that stimulus of interest going, because the actual content is the platform that people get that from. Where new MMOs now will rely heavily on marketing and rely heavily on Twitch and YouTube to help encourage numbers to come across. The big boys, World of Warcraft doesn't need that. It's itself. So it is only as good as itself. So if it's a bad patch or it's a bad DLC, it will drop. But as Jason rightly says, if there's a good one in there, people will come back and they will stay for a while. Which actually puts you onto the whole WoW Classic as well. I mean, the developers clearly know that they haven't hit the mark at all with their new DLC, and people are having that nostalgic feeling of going back and want to play WoW Classic for a little bit to recreate that feeling. But I think when you realize the developments and the quality of life and the improvements that are made during the development cycle of an MMO, when you do go back, you realize actually it wasn't all as good as what it used to be. It was just because it was a new experience and it was a new time and a fun time that you kind of had those rose tinted glances on. But when you actually go back, you kind of realize there's a lot more cracks than you realize in the game, and that you put up with a lot of less quality of life. And now we have, quality of life built into the game, mainly on pay to win items, but people or developers are aware of what makes a good experience for players. So I think, going back to your question on, what is the hot take on MMOs? I think we're in a very interesting place at the moment. I think a lot of MMOs are unsure where they want to go and what they want to be in. And there's this big discussion about MMOs being a single player online game now. They're designed for the single player, not for the multiplayer, which is kind of contrary to what actually is in the title of what an MMO stands for. But they're all designed for convenience and all designed to kind of keep people's single player element or aspect behind it, the enjoyable process, easy dungeon finders, big solo missions, big solo storyline, big solo story arcs, as opposed to that you've got to go out and socialize and you've got to go and talk to people if you want to go into a group and fight some people. It's an interesting place where we're going to be, and I think maybe Ashes will be the one that kind of shakes it up a bit. I don't know. I really don't know. We'll have to see.
I agree that you can never go back. I totally agree with that. I think that's true in life as well as gaming. Those rose-tinted glasses, it's never as good when you go back because you really can't. And I also think you hit on this timing. WoW was such a killer. There were MMOs before it, but it was timing of a lot of elements that came together that let it be so big. And maybe it'll be something totally new off the radar that uses a different technology that'll be the next driving platform. That'll be the next huge thing.
Yeah. People always keep jumping back onto VR. I can never really see how VR will actually be that next all-encompassing technology, just because it's just a very difficult product. I've got a VR headset. I do enjoy playing it, but it's exhausting. You can't spend the hours on it. Then you can't sit in VR for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, because it's just tiring. It's just the strain on your eyes, where you can do the same when you're playing an MMO, because you can have your Netflix on one side, you can be sat on the other, you can be eating food, you can be AFK if you want. You can't be doing that in VR. But it's where we go from here is interesting. Very interesting. There is stuff coming out, but MMOs and MMORPGs are in a very weird state. And I think also you got to remember that the gaming platform, they're not making any more of us 40-year-olds, right? In the sense that our generation is what we're at, but the younger generation that are definitely picking up on mobile games is a larger number of players, because us 40-year-olds were rarer when we were gamers than the young kids of today. Literally everybody's into mobile games. And the industry is shifting on that way. I don't know if you guys have heard or played Albion Online. And I had a little play on that. It's open world PvP, but it's mobile. It's cross-platform as well as cross-platform and also cross-player base. So literally, there is one server. You can play on your mobile, and I can then log in my PC and I can play on the same account. I can log on my Xbox and play on the same account, and the PlayStation, and on my Switch. And having that cross-platform, cross-account shared MMO is a really interesting step that they've taken. But the game is purely based on, in my eyes, a mobile game. It's monetized to hell. It's just even though it's got PvP elements on it, it's I don't know. It's the technology that it offers is amazing, but the game is just basically mobileized, and for me, it's a real turn off, and a real switch off. And again, with Elder Scrolls Online, if they said, right, okay, well, you can access your account on PlayStation or Xbox and PC. It doesn't matter which one, just log in and you can get all your characters. So you can play with your PlayStation people, you can play with Xbox. But what are we going to do that better? We're actually going to allow you guys to play on the Xbox with people on the PC and vice versa. I think that would be a really massive step for them. If they did that, and they probably couldn't do because they can't sort their own servers out, let alone change the infrastructure of it. But it would just be, it's what we need. We need MMOs like this AAA lists to just talk to all platforms and be able to log in and just make it easy, make it convenient for people to play when they want. And I think that will bring a massive lease of life into the game. But, you know, this cross-platform is definitely where people need to go. I mean, Fortnite was the show on that. You make a game accessible to everybody, it can become very popular.
Could you imagine doing a full dungeon or a White Strikes Mayhem, or like doing one full stream? So 5 battlegrounds, all in VR, first person. Do you know how tired your sword arm would be?
Yeah, well, the lag as well. You'd be doing like three attacks for one, wouldn't you?
Yeah. That would be a heck of a workout, though. You know, imagine you're up there actually bashing your arm, trying to bash people, and then like swinging your sword arm and holding your arm up to block attacks, and yeah, that would wear you out.
Yeah, it would do. I mean, it'd be a good experience, but you'd last 20 minutes, and that'll be it, game over. You'd be a sweaty mess at the end of it. I mean,
you can't walk.
Yeah, I mean, even playing, I don't know if you know the VR game Beat Saber, where you have like lightsabers and you hit the blocks along to the music. That is a great game, and I streamed that for 45 minutes, and I was in such a fit at the end of it because some of the songs are really, really tough. But you get hot and you're moving around a lot, and you get to a point where you know it's great for exercise, but you can't invest that amount of time into a MMO in a VR headset. And you know, is Ready Player One, you know, is the future's ideas and the game developers, you know, eyes, but on a practical level, forget about it.
Yeah. Do you throw ZeniMax's secret MMO title in the mix as something you might look into, or have they tainted the well too much?
I don't know. I'm a bit wary on ZeniMax now as far as developers go. I kind of feel they put their wallets first. I mean, we've seen this in so many ways. And it's a company, I get it, you know, but you know, when there are content creators screaming about great things that can be done and they completely ignore them and go, you know, oh, guys, we can't do that. We're going to wait another year. And you know, to silence an entire segment of their community by saying, we're not developing PvP for the next year, so therefore please do not talk about PvP for an entire year, is in my mind of them going, we're not going to ever develop PvP. We just want you guys to go away. We think you'll go away in a year's time. And what's happened, you know, we're 10 months in now, and all of a sudden we're just going, you know what, I don't think we can stick around because we don't believe it's going to work. There are, you know, when you look at ZeniMax's communication and the way they treat their customers, and if you ever go on the ZeniMax forum and you argue against a post and you get silenced, you'll understand what I'm saying about. Versus the developers of upcoming game studios such as Mortal Online, and you know, even Ashes of Creation, you know, where obviously they're crowdfunded and the source, they have a real connection and communication with their fans, and for me, that is what true gamers are about. You know, they're gamers making gamers for gamers, as opposed to, you know, corporations making gamers for people and getting money. I mean, there's a complete difference, and you can see it in their you know, in the way they deliver and communicate with people. And don't get me wrong, I know there are people in these game studios, like Activision, Blizzard, and ZeniMax, that are gamers, but they will not be saying this game is in a real mess, because obviously they'll get fired and cut. And it saddens me, when people boycott a game based on the like World of Warcraft. There are people in that company that believe in World of Warcraft, love the game, and then find that head management are going around having sexual assaults and that sort of stuff, and then people are boycotting the game. They spent hours developing and stuff. It must be soul destroying for those guys to kind of be part of that team, and then just people just walking out based on nothing that they've done, but what management have done. And I'm sure the same is with ZeniMax. There'll be people in that studio that have poured their heart and soul into the game, and must be screaming their heads off about the problems and the faults. Oh, guys, this week, we're not going to do that feature on PvP. We're going to create another Crown Store, cosmetic, because that makes more money. I mean, at what point do you go, I can't do this? This is just, I'm just going to throw my towel in. I actually go to a developer that actually wants to do that sort of content, but everyone's got to pay the bills, and I can't blame them for sticking around. But it must be pretty tough working in those companies and just seeing that from a first person perspective. So I don't know. We'll see what comes out with ZeniMax, but I'm not holding my breath, and I won't be pre-ordering like I did with Ashes, even though I'm an idiot. I said I'd never pre-order a game, but I want the Alpha 2 content, so I'm looking at it as an investment for my YouTube channel, not for the game, I suppose.
Right. Jason, do you have any other topics that we might have missed?
No, I can't think of anything.
Saul, do you have any questions for Jason or I?
No, not really. I think I'm looking. I know I'm looking forward to seeing where the MVP gaming goes, and such. So, I mean, do keep in touch with me, and if I'm ever over in the Midwest US,
Across the pond in the Midwest.
Yeah, I'll try and drop in and have a little play on your LAN setup. That sounds so cool. Very jealous that you're doing it. But yeah, it's awesome that you guys are cracking on with this. Very, very good. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me on, though. It's been awesome. I mean, I love chatting gaming. I think we've got a lot of years, all of us, in it, and it's just interesting to talk about the way the gaming direction goes and the MMOs and the competitive element of it goes. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Saul, can you tell us where everybody can find you at, like the different websites, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've made it really easy, actually. I've got FragManSaul.com, and on that you'll have the links to all the sites that I stream to. So I'm multi-streaming now, so I've decided to not put all my eggs in one basket. I'm streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, forever how long that will last. Trovo, which is another streaming platform I've just started on, which a couple of people have started to find me on there. And eventually TikTok, if I can get the numbers up. But everything's on FragManSaul.com, and the other one is Gorilla-HQ.com. That's the community one there we do the ESO builds on. We'll likely go into Ashes of Creation, and we've got a bit of New World going on up there at the moment as well. So those are the two main sites that you can find me on. But everything's FragManSaul. If you just type in FragManSaul on Google, I'll pop up, and you'll be able to find all the content you need.
That's awesome. Thank you. What about the best ways to support to your channel, like as far as merchandise, a tip jar, Patreon? What are we got there? Monetizing,
I to be honest, I've got to the point now where I'm just like, just come watch the streams, hang out. If you guys want to donate, that's great. Normally live on stream or through YouTube, but I just come and hang out and have a view. I've got to the point now with my content that I don't want to monetize it. Everything's for free. I turn ads off as much as I can do. I need to jump on the algorithm on YouTube. Do I put them on? But I encourage people to watch the streams on YouTube because there's one ad at the start and that's it. Or actually, no, there's no ads. I've turned ads off completely now on YouTube. You might get an ad via YouTube, which they turn them on. But, I just want people to watch live without being interrupted by, an advert. So I'm all up for the free content. And the Discord we have on Gorilla Discord, we do Friday nights streaming. And if there's a game that we're streaming that you play, you can just come and join us. We're very open, just having a bit of fun. And if you got from the conversation, we don't take the game too seriously, or gaming too seriously. We just have fun. And we probably will teabag you if you die, but you're very welcome to teabag us back if you kill us. That's how we roll.